Good afternoon and welcome to the channel. Thank you as always for watching and spending your valuable time with me. We are starting out with a merch plug, but not for me, even though yes, my merch is also available down below if you'd like to support me and check out the cool stuff I have to offer. But today we are showcasing some merch from Troy Sowers. So this is his Apex Everything key tag. And you can see the red and white is obviously like the curbing on a racetrack. So check him out, link down below if you'd like to support him as well. Always appreciated. And today should be a pretty fun upload because, and these are all, by the way, sold through MotoLoot, great company, great people, and the shipping is fast, everything is affordable and good quality. So anyway, this should be a fun upload though because we are doing a little head-to-head comparison of the MCLAREN, which a lot of people have been asking for because, believe it or not, I've never actually done a before and after test with the tune. Now, we've seen the car, run before the tune and before the catless downpipes from Cooks. We've seen it race and all that good stuff, but I've never done anything like head-to-head, a head-to-head speed test to really show how much power and and performance and speed I picked up with the tune. When I first got the MCLAREN, obviously, it was a new car and it was bone stock, and then I decided to put an exhaust on it, which is what every car guy does. That's like mod number one. You gotta put an exhaust on, gotta make it louder. So I went with AWE Sport Cat, so it still had cats, but they were smaller than the factory cats. And I went for an AWE X Pipe, which is still in the car right now. So I had the AWE Sport Cats and then the AWE X Pipe. The X Pipe gets rid of the factory muffler, which, these cars don't really have when you get the sports exhaust, which I had on this. Now you can get the really quiet touring exhaust, but when you have the sports exhaust, it doesn't have a huge muffler on it to begin with, but it still has a little box. And the X Pipe is basically, it's just pipes, it's straight. They say the X Pipe in the Sport Cats is good for about 30 horsepower, which by the way, John's car has my old stuff on it right now. They say that these cars pick up about 30 horsepower over stock with these Sport Cats, which I believe because, all turbo cars respond pretty well to exhaust mods, and MCLARENs are no different. They usually pick up some good power. So that was 30 horsepower over stock, but then I decided to go balls to the wall, right? So once I got about 5,000 miles on the car, which it now has almost 9,000, I decided, one of my big fears when I first got a MCLAREN was, I kind of believed a lot of the negative hype. Everyone says like, oh, MCLARENs, they're great cars, but they break a lot and everything. And I gotta say, I have had the absolute opposite experience. My car has never had a single issue over 9,000 miles. And anybody who watches my channel will tell you I am not gentle on my cars in any way. The MCLAREN, I beat the piss out of it every time I drive it. My girlfriend and I, we just went to lunch today, like 5 miles away, and I'm quite certain I hit the red line at least 20 times in that 5-mile stretch. So you can tell, like, I drive my cars. That's what I do. So, this car has been reliable, but I did want to wait until it had some miles on it to go with some more mods. So once it had 5K on it, the car seemed very solid. I had no problems. I said, okay, let's go. Let's do Cooks catless downpipes. And that's what I have on the vehicle right now. So it is a Cooks catless downpipe system. And then because obviously, you can't run catless on a modern car without a tune, or you get the check engine light. I didn't want that. And, I didn't even necessarily want the tune for more power because I was worried about reliability. I just wanted the tune to get rid of the check engine light. But then I got in contact with DME, and the guys over there are great, fantastic, really helpful. I would totally recommend them. And the car is a totally different animal. So when I got in touch with them, they kind of said, well, if we do a stage 2 tune, the thing will run 9s and it will be fast. And it absolutely will, because I ran a 10.4 spinning like real, spinning all the way half to the 8th, really. And it still ran a 10.4 at 140, almost 142, which is really fast. Anybody would tell you that. So this car definitely would run 9s, and the thing is a beast. You guys have seen it run. It takes down, basically in a normal car that weighs above 3,600 pounds, you need at least 850 wheel horsepower to beat this thing. I would absolutely recommend a DME tune if you have a MCLAREN 570 or any MCLAREN, but that's what I have now. So I have the Cooks. So I went from stock to the AWE Sport Cats, no tune, and the X Pipe, no tune. And then I went to the catless downpipes with the AWE X Pipe still on there with a tune from DME. When I had the Sport Cats on, I did a 100 mile per hour to 200 mile per hour run, and here is that footage. course, now with the catless downpipes and the tune, I did another run, and here's that. Worth mentioning that the first run there, the temperature outside was about 35 degrees. So it was a very cool night in Mexico. Whereas on the second run with the tune, it was about 85 degrees. So definitely a lot warmer. And of course, especially a turbo car, you want cool air for power. But it was still a pretty significant difference between the two, and the tune is clearly a lot faster. It was really crazy to see the difference laid out over that big stretch, because like 50 to 100, the car might be faster, but it's so quick anyway, you don't really notice. But 100 all the way to 200, basically pretty close to its top speed, you really notice. As you guys know, I'm just here to help the people. I'm here to answer the important stuff, like does a tune work on a McLaren? And I would definitely say yes, it does. And if you want your car tuned, check out DME. In my opinion, they are the best in the industry for sure. My car is a lot faster. It runs like a stabbed rat, and it's been very reliable and drives very nice. It's really one of the things that was important to me, you know, as a person who does drive their car every single day to the grocery store, to wherever, and on long trips. You know, I wanted something that was gonna make the car faster, but not behave any differently. I didn't want a race car all the time. I didn't want like clunky, hard shifts. I didn't want, you know, insane throttle response everywhere you go. I wanted it to drive essentially like factory, and then when you put your foot down, I wanted to release the animal. That's what I got with the DME tune. The McLaren stuff out of the way, which by the way, I will have a very cool video coming out soon on my next McLaren and which one I have decided to buy. And it's gonna be pretty friggin' gnarly, that's all I can say. But aside from that, we do have some great news regarding Project Grandpa, the blue vet right there. I have a whole bunch of mods here, including a lot of exhaust stuff from Corset in the boxes, so that's going on soon, hopefully on Monday. And I also got over here, you might notice, I got the front tires. So I do have the rear weld wheels, which are in the box, very cool, weld beadlock SS71s. Those are going to look incredible. And I have the rear tires for those. And now I have the front skinnies for the drag car. And look at that. Like, I mean, I know they're called skinnies, but that is awfully small and somewhat terrifying because I am going to drive it on the street. But yeah, I mean, looks good. And one more thing I want to cover. I'm going to try to make it real fast because I have talked about this before, but it's something that a lot of people have been asking recently on the channel for whatever reason. And I guess, you know, I'm getting new viewers, new subscribers. I do get about 300 to 800 a day, which is, you know, that's awesome. And thank you guys so much for the support. But a lot of new people asking, you know, what do you do for a living? Or like, what's the story? You know, what is your story? You know, how do you have these cars and everything like that? And the truth is that at this point, I do YouTube full time. I have been now for about 1.5 years. It is my only source of income besides, you know, using my money to work for me and investment wise, which is part of it as well. But, you know, I'm not a rich guy by any means, and the cars are definitely expensive and more than the average person buys, but they're also, like, it only works for me because the cars are my income to make content with. So, like, I couldn't afford these unless they were also making me money. So they're not the average cars, but that's because it's not the average job. Like, if I didn't have the job I'm lucky enough to have, I wouldn't have the cars, if that makes sense. So kind of like, yeah, I do have the cars, but I only have the cars because the cars are, you know, making the money to buy themselves is really how it kind of works. Yeah, I mean, like most kids, you know, it's not an abnormal thing, unfortunately, in these times, in this day and age. You know, my parents were divorced when I was 3, lived with my mom, she worked full time. And one of my proudest moments, you know, the cars and our house, you know, my girlfriend and I lived together and everything that I've been able to do, which by the way, on my channel, it's kind of cool, you know, like TJ Hunt on his channel, you can see he started in his parents' garage. And it's kind of the same for me. Like, I love seeing that progression and where he's at. He has his own warehouse now and all the crazy builds he does. So you've seen him go, and we started about the same time. So it was cool to see him go from that to like where he is now. And I'm kind of the same way. You know, I started making videos, if you go back and watch, in my little shitty two bedroom apartment when I had a roommate. So it was definitely not always like this, but yeah, one of my proudest moments, because the cars and the house and everything, that's all great, but my proudest moment was definitely buying my mom her dream car. about 2 years ago for Christmas, which I'll put that video down below. She did so much for me and sacrificed so much for me, you know, going back to work and working full time and all that stuff when I was a kid, that it was nice to kind of give back something, even if that's a really small repayment for everything that I put her through. Merry Christmas, Mom.
Look at her face.
But yeah, you know, I've worked my whole life and I never had a lot. I always had a place to sleep and food to eat, so it wasn't like, you know, I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, I was so poor and I was homeless living on the street. Look, I was never homeless living on the street. You know, everything was fine. I wore about the same 3 outfits for all high school, but that was totally okay. But yeah, I've always worked, and you know, I've always been somebody who was never afraid to get a different job and try something new, and I've done a lot. And I started making videos one day, and the rest is kind of history. But that's kind of a very short life story for me. You see the new MCLAREN videos that are coming, I figure I'm going to get that question a lot, so I just wanted to kind of explain it very briefly what I'm about. Like I said, I do have that new video coming out soon where the MCLAREN is going to be, I mean, I'm going to be trading this in. So maybe I'll do a big garage update video, kind of like Salmanj, and I'll do a big garage update. What cars are going and what cars are, or what car is coming. And that should be fun. And of course, I got to get moving on Project Grandpa as well. But anyway, that is the MCLAREN. Back to the action. That is the MCLAREN before and after tune video. If you did enjoy the upload, don't forget to give it a like. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.